He walked into a Circle K on a quiet Florida afternoon just to grab a hot dog. But within seconds, the man behind the counter, someone he actually knew, pulled a gun from under a jacket and unleashed more than a dozen shots straight into the back of his head. When the officer collapsed, the gun jammed. The killer calmly cleared it and stood over him, firing again and again until the clip was empty. A calculated execution in broad daylight that left investigators horrified, the community reeling, and a nation asking what dark secret could drive such ruthless violence. You are welcome and always blessed. Please subscribe, like, and share so more people can hear this shocking true crime story. In September 2025, a quiet coastal town in Florida was rocked by a killing that stunned even veteran detectives. Edgewater police officer David Juel, 45, walked into a Circle K gas station in Ormond by the Sea, off-duty and unarmed. He was met not with a routine stop, but with a hail of bullets from 24-year-old store clerk Eduardo Felipe Labrada Machado, a man who knew him. What unfolded inside that store was so deliberate, so cold, that the sheriff himself called it nothing short of an assassination. David Juel was more than just a police officer. He was a husband, a father, and a neighbor who lived only a short walk from that Circle K. His colleagues describe him as steady, dependable, and deeply committed to his family and community. Before joining the Edgewater Police Department, he had worked in communications for the Volusia Sheriff's Office, where many remembered him as the calm, reassuring voice on the other end of an emergency call. To those who knew him, he wasn't simply a badge. He was a man who balanced duty with kindness, a presence that made people feel safer both in uniform and at home. Eduardo Felipe Labrada Machado, just 24 years old, was no stranger to law enforcement. Records show that only a year earlier he had faced charges for firing a gun in public and was ordered to complete a firearm safety course and pay fines. Co-workers at the Circle K said he often kept to himself, but could be unpredictable. His name, of Portuguese descent, meaning axe, now seems hauntingly symbolic. Prosecutors say he had been working as a clerk at that gas station for some time and knew Officer Juel personally, but why he waited for him that afternoon, slipped out to his car, retrieved a jacket to hide his weapon, and then unleashed a brutal execution remains a chilling question investigators still cannot answer.
Was just buying a hot dog this afternoon and never even had a chance to react, being shot right in the back of the head repeatedly. Good evening, I'm Greg Warmoth.
I'm Martha Sagowski. We just heard from the Volusia County Sheriff, and he says that clerk fired as many as 15 shots at point-blank range. Deputies showed up to the Circle K in Ormond by the Sea just after 4. This is right off of A1A at the corner of Wisteria Drive.
Channel 9's Ashlyn Webb looking into the background of the officer who's deceased, who was a husband and father, but we began with Channel 9's Demi Johnson, who has been on scene since we first broke the story on Eyewitness News at 5:30. And Demi, you asked the sheriff if he thought this may have been a setup.
Yeah, Greg, he called it an assassination. All of this happening at the Circle K right here, where you can still see crime tape up right now. But I want to show you what's happening outside of this crime scene right now on State Road A1A. You can see dozens of officers and sheriff's deputies lining the roadway and all of the side streets, getting ready to follow the medical examiner out of here, out of this crime scene. The sheriff telling me David Juel walked into this gas station, was shot by the clerk, again, who knew him. Sheriff Chitwood says the officer was shot more than 10 times in the head. Edgewater police officer David Juel was gunned down in an Ormond by the Sea gas station, just down the street from his home. The Volusia Sheriff's Office says the suspect is the store clerk, Eduardo Machado. Sheriff Mike Chitwood is calling the crime scene and surveillance video some of the worst he's ever seen.
Video shows him grab a jacket and then walk back into the store. He walks up behind David and fires multiple shots into David's head. When David goes to the ground, the gun jams. He stands over top of him, clears the gun, and then probably fires another 7 or 8 shots. There's 10 or 12, 15 shots into David's head.
Chitwood says Machado then changed his shirt and left the store with another employee. Deputies found them just down the road. But at this point, it's not clear to investigators why Machado shot Juel.
It's my understanding that David and Eduardo know one another. Eduardo knows that David is a police officer. Why this occurred is what we're trying to figure out. But this was clearly, the video shows this was an out-and-out assassination.
You think he was set up? You said assassination.
That's when you look at that. That wasn't me and you got in a fight, and you come in the store, I'm going to shoot you.
Again, you're looking live right now at dozens of police officers from different agencies and sheriff's deputies lining State Road A1A and side streets here in Ormond by the Sea, waiting to pay their respects to that fallen off-duty officer who was killed here today in Ormond by the Sea. We'll continue to stay on top of this story and bring you updates.
It was just after 4 p.m. when Officer David Juel pulled into the Circle K on A1A in Ormond by the Sea. Riding with his father-in-law, he stepped inside the store for something as simple as a hot dog surveillance video shows the place quiet, the register empty, and the young clerk Eduardo Machado slipping out moments after Juel entered. Outside, Machado went to his car, grabbed a jacket, and returned with the weapon hidden beneath it. He walked casually back inside, waited until Juel turned his back, and then in one swift motion raised the gun and fired multiple shots directly into the back of his head. Juel collapsed instantly, but the horror didn't end there. The gun jammed. Machado calmly cleared it, stood over Juel's body, and squeezed off another string of shots. Eyewitnesses say as many as 15 rounds tore through the off-duty officer's skull, leaving the store floor covered in blood and silence. The execution was so cold, so deliberate, that even veteran investigators described it as one of the most disturbing crime scenes they had ever witnessed. The gunfire shattered the quiet of that coastal town, drawing neighbors and drivers on A1A to the Circle K. Within minutes, deputies and Ormond Beach officers swarmed the scene, where they found David Juel lying dead in the doorway. Crime tape went up quickly as stunned residents gathered in disbelief. Word spread fast that the victim was not just any man, but a local officer known to many, and the shock turned to grief. A solemn convoy of patrol cars soon lined the roadway, prepared to escort his body from the store. While inside, detectives studied the surveillance video that captured every moment of the killing. Outside, dozens of uniformed officers stood shoulder to shoulder paying their respects. The atmosphere heavy with silence, broken only by radios crackling and the sobs of those who realized a father, a husband, and a protector of the community had just been gunned down in cold blood. Detectives immediately secured the store and began piecing together what happened frame by frame from the surveillance footage. The video left little doubt about intent, showing Machado retrieving the jacket concealing the weapon and firing with chilling precision. Sheriff Mike Chitwood described it as one of the worst assassinations he had ever witnessed. Crime scene technicians recovered spent shell casings from the floor, while investigators traced Machado's movements after the shooting. He had calmly changed his shirt, stashed the weapon, and walked out with another clerk, as if nothing had happened. Deputies caught them just blocks away. Machado's pants still stained from the scene and his demeanor eerily calm. Questioned by investigators, he admitted to having thought about shooting Juel earlier, claiming he was simply having a bad day. The sheriff rejected that explanation, calling the act deliberate, calculated, and personal forensic experts confirmed the sheer brutality of the attack, estimating 10 to 15 rounds fired directly into Juel's head. And as detectives dug deeper, they found Machado's prior case of firing a weapon in public raising, troubling questions about why a man with such history was still behind a convenience store counter with access to firearms. After the brutal shooting, Machado tried to mask his crime with a disturbing calmness. Surveillance showed him slipping off his jacket, changing his shirt, and walking away from the Circle K alongside another clerk as if nothing had happened. But deputies were already closing in. Within minutes, officers spotted the pair just blocks away. Machado's pants were still stained from the blood and chaos of the store, and witnesses pointed directly to him. Deputies drew their weapons and ordered him to the ground. He did not resist. Reports say his face was blank, cold, almost detached, as if he didn't fully grasp, or didn't care about, the gravity of what he had done. When questioned at the scene, he casually admitted that he had thought about shooting Officer Juel earlier that day. His chilling words sent shivers even through hardened detectives. Handcuffed and placed in the back of a squad car, Machado showed no visible remorse. The sheriff would later call the arrest a capture of pure evil walking freely in our community. That short walk from the store to the police cruiser marked the final moments of Machado's freedom and the beginning of a long, painful road to justice. Once in custody, Eduardo Felipe Labrada Machado was booked into the Volusia County Jail and formally charged with first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer, a capital offense under Florida law. Prosecutors wasted no time announcing their intent to pursue the death penalty, citing the cold, calculated, and premeditated nature of the execution.
This afternoon, we respond here to the Circle K on A1A in the Wisteria and Ormond by the Sea for a active shooting call. When deputies in Ormond Beach arrive, they're met by a deceased who was laying right in the doorway of the Circle K. He's shot multiple times. They encounter both of the store clerks. Both of them are actually walking down the street, walking away from the scene. When we start to piece this together, what we discover is the deceased is an Edgewater police officer by the name of David Juel. David was off duty. The video is probably something in 38 years of law enforcement that I can tell you, it's unbelievable what we see in that video. David enters the store at 4:08 to get a hot dog. He's here with his father-in-law. They pull up in a truck. He walks into the store. As he walks into the store, there's nobody at the register. Our suspect in this case, Eduardo Machado, walks out of the store when David walks in. He then walks over to that white car behind the crime scene van. Video shows him grab a jacket and then walk back into the store. He walks up behind David and fires multiple shots into David's head. When David goes to the ground, the gun jams. He stands over top of him, clears the gun, and then probably fires another 7 or 8 shots. There's 10 or 12, 15 shots into David's head. He then walks out of the store, puts the jacket, and we believe the firearm, back in the car, changes his shirt. At this point in time, the clerk who's in the store was in the bathroom while all this goes down, comes out, assumes there's some kind of robbery or something, and he starts to walk away with our shooter. Our shooter's in custody now. He has, obviously, his pants show that he's there at the scene. The video is crystal clear over everything that occurred. It's my understanding that David and Eduardo know one another. Eduardo knows that David is a police officer. Why this occurred is what we're trying to figure out. But this was clearly, the video shows this was an out-and-out assassination. David is not in that store a minute when Eduardo, who's the clerk in that store, walks out, goes to the car, retrieves the jacket. He can't see what it is because he walks in with the jacket over his arm, and then in the video he pulls the jacket off and holds out his hand from point-blank range and just opens fire. And I said the most disturbing thing is when David goes down, the gun jams, and he stands over top of him, clears it, and then stands over top of him and fires a bunch more shots till he empties the clip into him. So that's where we are. We have our shooter is in custody. We obviously are going to tow the car and search the car. Our victim lives on this block. His wife is not that far away. They know one another. The shooter knows that David was a cop. Before David became an Edgewater cop, he worked for us in our communication center. So I want to let the chief talk about David because I think it's important you understand who David is.
During his first court appearance, Machado stood before the judge in shackles, his expression still vacant. The judge denied him bond, calling him a danger to society. In pre-trial hearings, the defense hinted at exploring Machado's mental health, suggesting he suffered from emotional instability. But prosecutors argued the surveillance footage alone shattered any claim of insanity or impulsiveness. It showed a man who planned, waited, concealed his weapon, and deliberately fired multiple rounds at close range. Sheriff Mike Chitwood personally attended several hearings, insisting that Juel's family and the community deserved the harshest punishment allowed by law.
Sheriff tells us that Edgewater police officer, he walked into the Circle K, he was off duty, and that's when he was shot by the clerk. Right now, we're learning more about this suspect who's accused of shooting that officer more than 10 times in the head. Circle K store clerk Eduardo Machado is expected to go before a judge for the first time today. He's accused of gunning down Edgewater police officer David Juel in a Norman-by-the-Sea gas station just down the street from his home. Sheriff Mike Chitwood is calling the crime an assassination.
Video shows him grab a jacket and then walk back into the store. He walks up behind David and fires multiple shots into David's head. When David goes to the ground, the gun jams. He stands over top of him, clears the gun, and then probably fires another 7 or 8 shots. There's 10 or 12, 15 shots into David's head.
Channel 9 has learned this isn't Machado's first run-in with the law. He was charged with a misdemeanor in 2023 for firing a firearm in public Norman Beach. An early resolution deferred prosecution agreement was filed in that case. He had to complete a firearm safety course and pay 2 fines. Sheriff Chitwood says after yesterday's shooting, Machado changed his shirt and left the store with another employee. Deputies found them just down the road. But at this point, it's not clear to investigators why Machado shot Juel.
As the case moved toward trial, the courtroom became a battleground of emotion and evidence. Prosecutors described Machado as a time bomb who finally exploded, while the defense tried to frame him as a troubled young man unfit for the death penalty. The jury watched the harrowing surveillance footage of Juel's final moments, many visibly shaken. Each piece of evidence painted the same picture: a senseless assassination of an officer who trusted the wrong person. The legal proceedings not only sought justice for Jason Juel's family, but also became a larger statement for law enforcement across Florida, an example that anyone who ambushes an officer will face the full weight of the justice system. The ripple effect of Officer Jason Juel's murder went far beyond the walls of the courtroom. His death became a rallying point for conversations about officer safety, community trust, and the hidden dangers in everyday interactions. For fellow officers in Volusia County, the case underscored that danger isn't always on a dark street corner or during a high-speed chase. It can be waiting in a place as ordinary as a neighborhood convenience store. Local leaders called for stronger measures to identify individuals with violent pasts working in frontline jobs. Citizens, shaken by how close to home the violence struck, began questioning whether enough was being done to keep repeat offenders like Machado off the streets. For Jason Juel's family, the pain was indescribable. His children would grow up without their father, and his colleagues carried the guilt of losing a brother in uniform to a crime no one could have predicted. The tragedy also fueled larger debates about gun access, mental health, and the legal system's ability to catch red flags before they turn into deadly acts. Vigils, memorial runs, and fundraisers were organized in Juel's honor, with thousands in attendance. His name became etched into the collective memory of the county, a reminder of sacrifice and a symbol of the dangers faced by those who wear the badge. The execution-style murder of Officer Jason Juel was not just the story of one man's life being cut short, it was a chilling reminder of how fragile safety can be, even in the most ordinary places. A trusted face behind a counter turned into a calculated killer, and a community was left grappling with grief, outrage, and unanswered questions. Jason's name now lives on, not only in the hearts of his family and brothers in uniform, but also as a symbol of the dangers officers face every day. This is the Untold Crime Chronicles. Please subscribe to our channel, share this story so it can reach more people, and let your voice be heard in the comments because it matters more than you know. Stay safe, stay aware, be blessed, and always remember, behind every headline is a family forever changed.